What do you do when life challenges you to the core, testing your resolve and pushing you beyond your limits? For Melissa Vera, the answer lies in resilience, self-belief, and a leap of faith. Living in North Carolina, Melissa's journey has been shaped by a tapestry of experiences, from the values instilled in her as the daughter of a dedicated Marine to the profound losses she has faced, including her father and her daughter's health struggles. The turning point came in 2014 when Melissa decided to pivot from her career as an elementary school teacher to embrace the world of blogging full-time, following the heart-wrenching loss of her father exactly 1 year after her daughter's first seizure. Today, she is not just a passionate storyteller in her blog, Adventures of Frugal Mom, but also the host of the podcast, Chat from the Blog Cabin, and the host of the DIY show on Market Live. Join us on LifeJack, the Resilience Podcast, in this episode as we explore Melissa's inspiring journey of resilience, creativity, and the power of faith.
Sometimes life gives us lemons. Sometimes it gives us lemonade. Other times it gives us something entirely out of left field that makes us say, WTF. But no matter what obstacles come, there is most often a way out on the other side, and we are once again victorious. My name is Dr. Rowe, and you are listening to my podcast about resilience. Every guest shares a tragedy to triumph story to give listeners like you the inspiration to push through every single day. Listen now as my next guest shares how they were life-jacked.
Hi, Melissa. Welcome. Thank you so much for being a guest on my show. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing, Dr. Rose?
I'm doing fabulous. I'm doing most fabulous. Journey has included significant challenges, including your daughter's health issues, and of course, losing your father. But do you believe that these experiences somehow shaped your perspective on life and resilience? How so?
Well, first of all, it really made me stop and think about, the end of life, especially when I lost my dad, about I don't want to look back in my life and feel like I have regrets. I don't ever want to look back when I come to the end of my life and say, I should have done this, I should have done that. And for the longest time, that's how I was. I mean, I literally was living in fear of judgment of others, especially my mom. I had a very strained relationship with my mom. I loved my mom, but it was always, if I didn't do what she wanted me to, it was like that unconditional love that a mother is supposed to have for her daughter wasn't there with us.
Wow.
And so, yeah. So that was a huge thing. I was always living in fear of judgment. And when I hit 50, I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I can't be what everybody else wants me to be because I'm so miserable in my own life. And I'm like, because I'm trying to live up to everybody else's expectation. And I finally started, I want to say living for me, but living for my immediate family, my husband and my 3 girls. And when I made that turning point, my life just became clearer and clearer and clearer. When I lost my dad, the 2014, when it started out, let me go back, 2014, when my youngest daughter at the time was in 6th grade. She had her first of many seizures that year, and we weren't sure what had happened. We weren't sure. The pediatrician said there's something showing up on her MRI. We're not sure what it was. It could possibly be a brain tumor. And at that point, my world was spiraling. And so I had to take a leave as an elementary school teacher and take care of my daughter because her school days and my school days didn't measure up because the doctor wanted her to go half days.
Wow.
And so, yeah.
It's interesting. You were in education. I'm still currently in education, 23-year educator. And it's amazing how I don't want to say we forget that we have our own children because we don't forget because we go home, we see them. They're there. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting that the expectation as an educator is that we show up for other people's children every single day, right? And we take care of them. We put our all into them. And sometimes we feel guilty when we have to take off work because we can't be there for everybody else's children, but to take off work to be there for our children. Did you ever feel that kind of tug and pull that a lot of us educators feel?
Absolutely, 100%. Because, sometimes when you're teaching, kids are not getting what they need at home. So you're trying to give them as much as you can. You're trying to be kind of, I won't say the parent, but give them a loving environment for them to learn. And I was actually in music. So for kids that didn't excel into the regular curriculum and the classroom curriculum, and they can excel in music or art or something like that, and you can see their eyes light up when you walk in the room, knowing that they're going to learn something, but they're going to embrace learning, and they're going to love what they're learning. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s Day, and one of my favorite lessons that I ever taught throughout, I was K through 2 music, was the I Have a Dream speech by Dr. Martin Luther King. And I'm going off a little bit, but I actually played the whole speech for the kids and told them to listen to the cadence, listen to the rhythm, listen to this, listen to that. And they got a better appreciation about who he was by just making it come alive for them. So, yes, I 100% would feel guilty because I'm like, these are my kids. This is my lesson plan. I know how I want to teach it, and I'm not sure if the people are actually going to be able to be as creative as I am when I teach it. So absolutely, 100%, the guilt factor was there.
And, I never was a large group teacher. I was always a classroom teacher, teaching, grade by grade, individual, grades. But but then as a campus leader, as an assistant principal, and I just remember that I would take my hats off to large group teachers, because you guys would see every single child in the school. You would see every single one. And then you would see them for multiple years in a row that you would impact that particular child's life. So, if anybody's making an impact on the teachers, our fine arts teachers for sure. I mean, we all are in education, but definitely our fine arts teachers, because you see every kid in the school, every single kid.
Exactly, 100%. Sometimes you don't want to see every kid in the school.
No, that is also true. I guess it's twofold. Now, yep. I have to talk to you about your decision. I mean, a bold decision to leave your teaching career. Of course, I'm not teaching anymore. I'm in admin, as you stated before. But I love this podcast. I love doing this podcast. I love putting out the episodes every single week. I love the people that I meet, such as yourself, who are fabulous, resilient people. But you decided to leave that career behind and pursue blogging full time. Like, how did you find the strength to do that?
A lot of it was piggyback on of losing my dad. My dad was such a big person in the community. He would come in and volunteer all the time at the school and in classrooms and doing everything. He was a Lions Club. He would make sure the kids had what they needed, all this stuff. And so the first time I walked the halls after my dad passed away, I just couldn't do it anymore. I just said, there's too many memories of my dad. The first year of him being gone, I was focusing on getting my mom through it, because my mom and him have been married for 55 years when he passed away. And so I was focused on getting my mom through the loss of my dad. And I wasn't focusing on my own mental health, on my own grieving process, because I was like, okay, what's the next step to get my mom, to get her through this? Because he died in January. His birthday was in February. Her birthday was in February. Valentine's Day was in February. Their anniversary is in February. So how can I get her through all these milestones that were coming up for her and my dad? So I just said I needed to take a step back, and I couldn't deal with the memories of my dad and deal with my own grief and try to deal with my mom's grief at the same time. It was just way too much on me. So taking a step back from the school system and saying, okay, I'm going to focus on mom. And God, if this is what you want me to do, show me a way to do it. And at my dad's funeral, this one lady who, unfortunately, the last couple of weeks, she's passed away, very tragically passed away. She was a victim of a senseless crime. But at my dad's funeral, and this is the lady I've known all my life, hugged me close and really hugged me tight and said, all the stuff you're going through, which was my daughter's illness, the accident, my dad going in the hospice, and then ending up passing away, was God calling you closer to him. Lean into your faith. And I didn't think about it at the time. I was like, this woman's crazy. But looking back now, I realized I could have not got through what I went through in 2014 without God. I may not have leaned into him, but he got me through it.
Yes, yes. Isn't it amazing how, we really think about resilience as something that we do for ourselves when sometimes we have to also carry the burdens of others. And like, for instance, with your mother, regardless of the relationship that you and your mother had, like, you were her rock, like you were the person for her at the time. And it's amazing how we don't recognize it, but sometimes God is making us strong, not necessarily for ourselves, but he is making us strong for other people. I feel like he's giving us the tools sometimes
for sure.
to be strong, because you never know when the time is going to come when you are going to have to be strong, either for yourself, for your family, for your children, for your maybe people at work, or like you said, in your instance, for your mother. It's just very interesting. So with that, with your leap of faith, because that's pretty much what you did. You just took a leap of faith. And I know it was influenced by your father, but there's a lot of uncertainty that comes with making a decision like that, leaving, guaranteed money to go and do something that you really don't know how it's going to turn out. Now, luckily for you, it has turned out well. So praise God for that. But, how did you handle that uncertainty, even in the midst of going through all the other things that you were going through?
I guess one of the things I did was definitely devote more time to prayer, devote more time into reading the Word. I really honestly said, God, if this is what you want me to do, let it happen. And I just leaned into that. In 2015 is when I went full time. 2018, I purchased the first of what I call the blog cabin, which is a she shed. I bought it with all the money I had made from blogging, and my husband did all the sweat equity, but I designed it. And just this past year, I actually added an extension, bought another building, and we joined the two buildings together, so my office is bigger now. So I know God is where God wants me to be, and I feel like he's pointing me to other things too in this kind of space, like, okay, now that you have this space, what are you going to do to help raise awareness of me? What are you going to do to increase faith of others? So I feel like that's my calling now, is like coming in and saying, okay, I need to start planning out what this year is going to bring, and then just pray about it, honestly. Because I prayed and prayed and prayed. I was like, God, I know this is what you want me to do. I feel it in my bones. But if it's not, give me signs. And there was never a sign. There was always more for prosperity. And even when COVID hit, and I thought, oh, great, my income's going to tank. But instead, I was in a mindset challenge, and that's where Chats from the Blog Cabin, the podcast, came out of, because I enjoyed talking to people and having conversations. Normally, I wasn't like that. Get me in front of a group of kids all day long, I would be like rolling things off the top of my head, not even having to worry about what I was saying. But get me in front of a group of my peers and forget it. I would not even have been able to do this interview with you, Dr. Rowe. But I knew, like, God is giving me that confidence to go out and speak out. Whereas before, when I was growing up, my voice was never heard because I was the youngest of four girls. So.
Wow. I want to go back to something that you said that resonated with me. You said earlier that you've embraced life free from others' judgments and boundaries as you approach your 50s. And I think about myself, I'm about 5 years away from 50. And I am beginning to just, take my ego out of a lot of situations and just not worry about it. Like, just let it go.
Mm-hmm.
And just, and I don't know if are familiar with Mel Robbins has this theory called let them. The let them theory is just like, let them, let people think what they want to think, let them be late, let them do whatever it is that they want to do. Right. And so you say that's incredibly freeing. How so?
One is because you start focusing on, instead of focusing on the small things, you're looking at the bigger picture. And you're looking at, okay, is this going to fulfill me as a person? Or is this going to fulfill somebody else's idea of what I'm supposed to be? And that's huge, because once you start living for yourself, and I don't want to say selfishly, but start living and doing things that make you feel good without the fear of judgment, about the fear of, oh my gosh, what are people going to think if they see this, if they see that? Once you start living like that, it's just, it lightens the load off of you. It just takes that huge weight off your shoulder, because being the youngest of four girls, I was very judged. I was told at an early age by one of my sisters, and my mom agreed, that I shouldn't call myself pretty, and nobody in my lifetime would ever call me pretty. And that just
Wow.
damaged my emotional health. And I swore when I became a mom that I wasn't going to be the mom that I had. I wanted to be the mom to my girls that I didn't have. And for a while there, I struggled with that. And even the girls now, my girls are older. My girls are 29, 26, and 22. But they see now, the last couple of years, once I hit 50, that was like 6 years ago, the change in my mindset, the change in the way I am with them. And they're like, Mom, you're not our mom. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, well, I don't think of you as our mom. I think of you as a friend who happens to be my mom. And that's the greatest compliment any of them could give me. It's because they saw the change. They saw how I was working on myself. They saw how I'm not so uptight, how I'm not so wound tight and so anxious and fly off the handle, because that's how I grew up. My family was rage and regret. They would be upset about anything, and then they would say whatever they would thought out of their mouth, and then they would regret it later, or some of them didn't regret it. And I'm just like, I can't do that anymore. I can't rage and regret, because it was making me feel so awful. And I had empathy for other people, and I could see both sides of stories, but they couldn't see my side of anything. I've been told that my voice didn't matter. I was told everything that I was feeling was all in my head, that, it didn't happen like that. Instead of saying, well, maybe it did happen because of the way you recollected it, but I don't recall it happening like that. So,
well, man, I can tell you the strongest one of the, I mean, my grandmother used to tell me all the time, different, bites of wisdom. But one of the things that she used to tell me is your perception is your reality. And as much as people can tell you what you're not seeing and what you're not feeling, but if that is what you feel that you are seeing, or that is what you feel that you are feeling, that is absolutely what's going on for you. And I mean, but it's amazing how people can try to tell you, what you are feeling, what you are, thinking. It's quite amazing. It's quite amazing that people can do that. And I just wonder where they get the gall, I guess, to do that to other people. Amazing.
I have no idea. I mean, I've always been like, I can see two sides of both stories.
Yeah.
And, it just bothers me so much.
No, most definitely. Now, you started a project to honor your dad using Christmas cards that you found at your mother's house. Can you share with the listeners a little bit about this project?
Okay. My mom passed away in 2023, in August of 2023. And as we were going through, oh my gosh, this one thing, I'm gonna give it a little tidbit right now. But if you have kids, go ahead and declutter your house as much as you can, because, oh my gosh, it took us over a year to get through her stuff. But during the time that we were going through my mom's stuff, we found a whole bunch of unopened Christmas cards. I mean, unopened, literally, like she would buy them on clearance and stuff like that. And there was like boxes and boxes and boxes of them. So I took them, because I'd done this before, but this particular one, I took them and I wrote them all out, and I'm still continuing to do this now, and gave them to troops, because my dad was a Marine. He died from exposure of Agent Orange in Vietnam and the contaminated water at Camp Lejeune. But that's something that he was who he was. He embraced being a Marine all his life. I mean, he went from being military intelligence to a police officer and everything else. He was one of these good guys, the ones that knew the community they were policing and knew people by name.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to make sure that his legacy would continue on. And so I started writing out Christmas cards to our troops, writing, God bless you, thank you for your service, just write little personal notes. And you can imagine that, if you're sending cards out, I mean, we had boxes upon boxes. that my hand would get tired after a while. And I did enlist some of my friends and some of the Girl Scout troops and things like that. And I even had one person that had the Partnership for Children that basically has all daycares that they're under. And she got the daycares to work at everything out and send cards in as well. So that's just something that I've started doing at Christmas time for the troops because they're away from their families. And I know my dad was deployed a lot, like he was in Vietnam, but toward the end of his career was when I was born. But throughout his career, he was always being deployed somewhere. So I know what he felt like to be away from his family. So I wanted to make sure these soldiers knew that we support them. We may not support the wars, but we support the military as far as, they're out there, they're doing what they signed up to do. They're putting their life at risk for our freedom. So I want to make sure that they know that they're supported, and that's a way of continuing the legacy that my dad had.
Do you think this project contributed to the way you look at resilience?
Yes. I think the way I look at resilience definitely goes back to my dad because my dad, he was diagnosed in 1998 with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and he did not pass away until 2015. January of 2015. 2014 is when his non-Hodgkin's lymphoma ended up turning into simple lymphatic leukemia, which is the blood cancer. But yes, 100%, it definitely, because I saw my dad go through, at one point, my mom had knee replacement, and my dad literally was more worried about my mom, and he was driving 45 minutes away to get his chemo, but he was more worried about someone staying with my mom than someone going with him to chemo. So definitely the resilience came from him because I saw him never give up, always worried about how he was going to leave my mom, how he was going to leave us, and he was fighting until the very end. So definitely my dad is my role model and my hero.
Now, of course, people feel that it takes many different types of personality traits or characteristics or tools or resources to build resilience. But for the listeners out there who may be struggling with their own resilience, especially if they're feeling like they're in families or environments where they are severely judged, or maybe they feel unsupported, what is your best advice to help yourself build resilience?
There's a couple of things I can say. Number one is start giving yourself positive pep talks. Even if you have to write on your bathroom mirror or whatever, say it's going to be a good day because I got up this morning, something to feel gratitude about. Even if you don't feel gratitude, you could say, hey, I had a great breakfast today, or, hey, you know what, I went for a walk. Self-care is very important too. For the longest time, I felt so guilty about taking time out for myself when I could be doing everything else for everybody else. But you have to find things that work for you. Like prayer is important for me. Devotion's important to me. Spending time with friends is very important to me. But I want to do a caveat to that. Friends that support you. Friends that aren't afraid to tell you, you know what, you're going off the rails a little bit. But not friends that are going to go to you with judgment and say, we don't like what you're doing. No, you want a friend that's going to gently push you back to where you're supposed to be. Find your tribe. That's important because and having a strong support system. My husband, who I adore, my husband is not from this country. He's a native of Mexico. Him and my girls are someone that I can immediately, if something's going great, I share it with them first because I know they're going to support me and cheer me on. Whereas if I shared it with the family that I had growing up, they were like, oh, really? Okay, whatever, and they'll blow it off because they don't understand. Even to the day that up to the point that my mom died, she didn't understand what blogging was. And I tried to explain it to her and tell her how I love to write, love to be creative. And she's like, what do you do now? I don't know how many times I explained it to her. So, yeah, just do it. Forget the naysayers, the critical self-talk, which is where I was at fault a lot. If something would go wrong with what I was doing. I was like, oh, it's all my fault. I was a scapegoat in the family, so I was a scapegoat in my mind as well. Like everything wasn't going right because of it, because of me, because of who I was. And that wasn't the case. It was just things weren't just happening to flow the way it's supposed to flow. So mindset coaching is huge. I did that. I'm still doing that. Just work on yourself. Work on making sure that you are where you're supposed to be instead of where everybody else wants you to be supposed to be. And I know that's hard, but setting boundaries is important too, especially when you look at someone and say, I love you, but I can't right now. I can't deal with this. I love you. I'll be there if you need me. But right now, I need to take this break from you. And that's important. I mean, people may not understand it, but oh, well, that's just how it be, because in the end, you're going to be the one that's living with the thoughts in your head. You're going to be the one that's going to have the knots in your stomach. They're going to forget about making you feel crappy. You're the one that's going to have to live with the consequences. So you're like, you know what? I'm going to stand in my truth. And for the longest time, I didn't do that. And it's hard to begin with, but the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And the easiest way you can say it, and people can start recognizing the changes in you, and then they start reacting to you differently because they see the changes in you. You know, I have one sister who likes to pull in all the negative crap and throw it at you when she gets upset. And I used to play into that and throw it right back at her. And I'm like, nope, sorry. I was like, you know what? I'll accept my part of the blame and everything's going on, but I'm not accepting all the blame because we're both to blame. And when I start doing that, the way she reacts to me is totally different than she used to. People will see the change, and they'll slowly but surely come around to it. It'll be hard at first because setting boundaries is hard, and taking time for self-care, making sure that you're okay, whether it's taking a walk. I started getting facials over a year ago, almost 2 years ago now, and that's one thing. Getting my hair done and getting a facial is two of the things that I make sure is on my monthly schedule. And I know a lot of people think, wow, that's a little conceited, but it's a way to make me feel good and to relax and just escape for a while.
No, absolutely. That setting boundaries and making sure that you are intentional about self-care, I tell you, a lot of those two things are just so important. And a lot of times people think boundaries are for other people when no, setting the boundaries is actually for you. It's the protection for yourself. It absolutely is, for sure. Well, Melissa, thank you so much for sharing your powerful story as a guest today on this episode of Life Jack, the Resilience Podcast. Your journey illustrates the incredible strength that comes from faith, self-belief, and the courage to pursue one's passions, even amidst adversity. As you continue to honor your father's legacy through your projects and inspire others with your creativity, may you find even more joy and fulfillment in your endeavors. So how can listeners find and connect with you?
Instagram, Frugal Mom. That's where I'm most active. I am on Facebook a little bit, but Instagram, definitely Frugal Mom. You can also go to adventuresfrugalmom.com. There's a contact me page if you want to contact me. You also check out the blog. It's really kind of evolved into more of a better homes and garden type blog but every once in a while I do throw up personal posts up there. Chats in the Blog Cabin is available anywhere that you listen to podcasts.
Do you have any last words of encouragement for the listeners?
Stop talking to yourself negative and be who you want to be, not who everybody else wants to be. Boundaries, like I said, are important. Lean into something that's going to bring you joy. Like for me, it was my faith. It was those words that Miss Paula told me in 2015, this is God calling you closer to him. And I was able to tell her at my mom's funeral in 2023 about how much those words impacted me. And I think that's also important too, if something has impacted you or someone has impacted you in a way that has changed your life, to make sure that you tell them while they're still alive how much they've impacted your life. Looking back now, I wish I had told my dad as much as I know he knew, but I wish I'd actually vocalized it to him how much being his daughter meant to me, because that's so important to tell people what an impact they have on your life, especially if it's a positive impact. So that way they know that they're doing what God told them to do as well.
Well, Melissa, I appreciate the insights you've shared, and I hope the listeners find inspiration in their own journeys. I wish you and your family nothing but blessings and abundance. Please take care.
Thank you, Dr. Ray. Thank you for having me on. And guys, just do it. I mean, I feel like Nike. Just do it. I mean, honestly, find something that brings you joy and make sure you protect yourself and have out a little time for self-care, because that's important. That's 100% important.
Melissa Vera, everyone. Be sure to join me next time for more uplifting stories and insights on resilience. Until then, keep pushing forward, embrace the journey, and remember that every setback can lead to a greater comeback. Dr. Rowe, signing off.